How does that saying go? If ifs were a fifth, we'd all be drunk?
I wish I was drunk.
I'm hammered.
That's right, everybody. We have to listen to sad, sad music tonight because the Phoenix Suns decided to break our hearts and blow a 22-point lead and lose to the Lakers 123-116. Welcome in to the PHNX Suns post-game show. I'm Lindsay. That's Gerald. That's Steven. That's Eric. How you guys feeling? Do we need to have some therapy?
It's the same stuff, different day.
It's so sad.
Do you hear the pain in this man's voice?
I'm so sick of it being turnovers that lead to just meltdowns of epic proportions. How do you have a 22-point lead in the first half? Everything is looking great. The ball movement is great. The defensive communication is great. You're keeping a bigger Lakers team off the boards. And then it just all unravels. The turnovers open the door. Your defense completely falls apart over the next 3 quarters, and you end up with what should have been a double-digit loss after you led by 22. It's frustrating because they added point guards. They brought in a new head coach. They filled out their depth. But the starting five has to get it together. They have to fix their turnover problem, and it starts with the guys that are handling the ball all of the time.
It feels like this was, for me at least, especially watching it live, a repeat of the very first game. Mm-hmm. They do all of this fun, cute stuff in the first half, and then the third quarter seems like it's trending towards being a boogaboo. Mm-hmm. Whether it's just a lack of execution, whether they need to be better with game planning for the inevitable adjustments that come from an opponent that just took your uppercuts the entire first half. Something's got to change there. He gave up 35 points in the third quarter against the Clippers. He did the very same thing against the Lakers a couple of nights later.
Yeah, this sucks. Like, this definitely sucks because we were riding high on this wave of momentum. You come off of the first game. Okay, it's an overtime win, and the Suns scrapped it out. And then this game, I even tweeted it, trying to be Mr. Positive. Let's see what this team is made of. If they bend and they don't break. Not only did they break, but they broke pretty hard because they had the right formula. They had the right plan, and that's the most frustrating part, Lindsay. We saw what they could do to succeed and to win this game against a team that, you know, they're going to be fighting for a similar playoff spot, and you're in the same Pacific Division. You had a dominant lead, and you ended up, I know it was only a 7-point win at the end of it, but you end up getting dominated in the second half. That's not acceptable.
No, it absolutely is not, and we are here to talk through all of it with you guys, so keep your comments coming in. We love to hear your thoughts, and of course, as always, we are presented by Bet365. Download the Bet365 app today. Use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer and find out why, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. I think the thing that hurts the most about this game is that, well, for one, we're having a watch party, and the first quarter and a half, quarter and 3/4 of a quarter were so much fun. It was electric in here. We were all high-fiving. We were all cheering, hooting and hollering because Ryan Dunn was knocking down threes and KD was doing KD things. And it was so much fun. And then you end that second quarter and you're like, hold on, what's happening here? And then it's like everybody comes out in the third quarter and it just continually seems like it just goes downhill and downhill and downhill. And now we have to sit here and talk about a loss.
That stretch near the end of the second quarter and the beginning of the third quarter was where they lost the game because you had a chance and you should have gone into the half up 15 at least, probably 20 points. And at that point, it's over. Like you have one good quarter, one decent quarter, and that game is over. And instead, they cracked the door open with bad turnovers. Nurk has to be better with the ball. Too many sloppy turnovers. He had 4 of their 16 tonight. And he's not their primary playmaker. He's a guy that needs to be a connector, needs to make safe passes. I know he's going to get some every now and then if he has a backdoor and the defender sticks with it. Those are going to happen. But 4 is too many for your starting center to have. And a lot of them are sloppy, avoidable mistakes. and we've talked about this before, but like all of those turnovers in the third quarter, second quarter, they directly fueled Lakers fast break opportunities. They gave them easy second chance points. I think they had double-digit second chance points in the first half, and that was the difference in making it a game instead of putting a team that you're up on down in a hole and burying them there, and that's why they lost tonight.
And that was the emphasis by J.J. Redick and the Lakers, was crash the offensive rebounds. They did it in their Game 1 win against Minnesota, and that was something they were going to look to exploit against the Suns. I mean, listen, there was a point last season where the Suns weren't winning without Jusu Nurkic, right? In every game he didn't play, they lost, and that's just not the Nurk that you got today. He only played 18 minutes, 1 of 5 from the field. He shot 3 threes, didn't hit a single one of them, a minus 19, not only 4 turnovers even, but 4 personal fouls as well. And to add on to all of that, like Gerald said, they were at really bad moments. Like sometimes a turnover doesn't matter as much if you still keep the momentum, but it felt like every time that Nurk made a mistake, it ended up being a very pivotal moment in all of the momentum shifting. And I know there's this debate on whether momentum is a real thing in sports or not. I think tonight kind of proved momentum's a very real thing, Steven.
It is. And to that point, the inverse or the counterpunch to having momentum is not having it, especially after you already established it and you doubled up and tripled up on that.
Yeah.
Lead in the first half goes to as much as 22 points. You get to that moment that Gerald articulately bookmarked at the end of the first half. The Suns have to be better at not just garnering the lead, but figuring out how to navigate the waters to sustain it. Obviously, it's not going to stay at 22 when LeBron James and Anthony Davis on the other side, but you have to be able to weather the storm, absorb whatever run inevitably that comes from them, and still get back to what got you that lead to begin with. Obviously, they're going to adjust, but you have to be better at that. I want to shout out Zach Lowe for multiple reasons, but specifically for now, he calls them record scratch moments. The Nurk turnovers, very, very record scratch type moments that really just kind of was like a shot in the foot to all the momentum that you worked so hard to establish. They have to figure out as a team how to be better at navigating, particularly closing halves. I think there's one thing to have a good process to start a quarter, another thing to navigate the middle of the quarters. You have to close the quarters to be the team that you desire to be once it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I think I misspoke. I think I said second chance points. What I meant was points off turnovers. They actually kept them off the offensive glass, which was a huge thing that we focused on in pregame. But again, that stupid turnover problem rearing its head. You can't give a team like the Lakers, especially with the way you guarded them in the first quarter and a half of a game, and we're playing well on that end. You can't breathe life into their offense and give them confidence, give them momentum, give them pace with all of these easy points off turnovers.
I think the thing, too, is that, like, we saw it a lot tonight, and we saw it a little bit on Wednesday as well. When things start going sour, they do revert back. They have a tendency to revert back at least a little bit, right? And then you sort of start to go away from what was really working in the first quarter and a half, and that was playing with pace and the ball just moving and moving and moving. And then you start to see some adversity, and now you're resorting back to iso ball and just trying too hard almost, instead of just continuing to do what was working so well for you. And I don't understand how you can just fall apart that quickly, it feels like.
That's why it's a process. It's not just going to be one night it just doesn't click, and it doesn't click, and then the next night it's just like it never happened before. They have these habits baked into their process, whether they want to accept it or not. Obviously, brand new coach, handful of brand new players, but the nucleus still is what was last season. They've taken strides towards getting rid of that and getting away from it, but those habits clearly still exist. It's going to be a process to transition out and fully get into Bud's system.
Well, there's a couple layers in that, right? Because there is a whole new way for the Phoenix Suns to overcome this year, right? The problem with Vogel and everything last year was there was no adjustments. Over the season, it was the same problem over and over and over and over again. And you did do things to address those problems in the offseason on the court and on the coaching staff as well. The thing is, when you do the same thing that you failed at last season and it costs you a game like this, it's hard not to get that same feeling as a fan, as a player, whatever. You look at that and you say, really? Again? I thought we fixed this. Now, the positive spin to all of this, and I know some people don't want to hear the positive side of it, however, it is game 2, right? And this is a Lakers team this is a good team. This is a well-coached team, the complete opposite from last year. They have pieces, and especially have pieces that match up poorly against the Phoenix Suns. There is a way where they correct this, and there is a world where they actually end up blowing out this team. There are things, Lindsay, that need to be tweaked over time, and I'm not going to press the panic button in game 2, but if we continue to see the same pattern over and over and over again, then it's a massive problem, not just a bad feeling after a game.
Absolutely. I mean, we have comments in the chat saying, it's the same as last year, and if you think it's going to be different or fixed, you are in major denial. And it's literally like, it depends on how your approach. Like, do you want to be more positive or do you want to be more negative here? Because if you want to sit in the negative side of things, it's, oh, well, yeah, see, they revert back to old habits. Old habits die hard. You're never going to get rid of it until you blow it up and yada, yada, yada. If you want to be positive, it's, okay, for a good portions of both of these games, we've seen what they're capable of. Do they fall back into old habits sometimes when things get tough? Yes. Right now they do. Can they break that habit and continue to push through and continue to do what they need to do and what we've seen does work when S hits the fan? That remains to be seen, but I would like to at least give them more than 2 games before I fully wipe my hands clean of the Suns this year. I just want to have a little bit more fun than that.
What we're seeing right now play out is trying to stamp out bad habits. And I'm sure Bud is hammering home a lot of these things that we're complaining about now as far as the turnovers are concerned, as far as the balance between, the ball movement that we saw in the first half and, like you said, Lindsay, reverting back to old tendencies when things start to get uncomfortable and not just trusting what worked. I see a lot of people in the chat complaining about the KD ISO ball, complaining about Devin Booker taking tough shots in that third quarter and getting away from the ball movement. I think both are valid concerns. I'm not going to put blame on one or the other. I think it's all of the above because I think the ball movement was great in the first half. And then I think as soon as the turnovers happened, the Lakers started making a run. Then it completely reverted away from what we saw work, and they also went cold. They also just missed a lot of shots in that third quarter. Devin Booker especially, he went cold. I think he started 5 for 10, and then he went 2 for his next 8 after that. So at that point, you've cracked open the door. So I do think what we're seeing is this really tough balance between, adopting this new system, taking more threes, having point guards, getting ball movement, and the other team's making a run. Let's just do what we're used to doing.
There's multiple things that are true at the same time right now. Everybody has every right in the world to be upset, to be angry because you see the same problems. You feel like you're getting hurt by that same person again, that same feeling. You don't like it. And that's.
But we can't quit them.
No, you can't. You can't. But the thing is, if there's one thing that, even media day and the offseason approach for the Suns proved, Steven, is that they are aware of their deficiencies and they know what they need to correct. Now, I can't sit here and say that they're going to do that, but Mike Budenholzer pulled Bradley Beal in on the offseason and said, this is where you're making mistakes. You need to shoot these threes instead of driving in the paint and passing it up. He's not the type of dude to just sit back and let it all play out. That's the difference with Frank Vogel and Mike Budenholzer. Give them time to correct it. Be angry about it right now. I'm sure they're mad about it too, but don't think that it can't be fixed. I can't guarantee it, but it's definitely still possible, and they have way more ability to do that this year than anything they showed last year. Might not work out, though, Steven. We still have to just wait and see at this point.
Yeah, it is a lot of wait and see, but I just want to kind of be the filter here.
Sure.
Let's all
breathe.
Ready?
Nice
One,
little inhale.
ready?
Chat, please
Count
get
of
involved
three.
with this too. On
1,
3,
2,
we're gonna
3.
inhale and exhale.
That felt good.
That being said,
Look at us.
now that we're speaking from clear minds, everybody's blood pressure is brought back down to the normal level. It's game 2 of 82. There's still 80 games left. There's a lot to learn. You have to be thankful for learning these lessons early in the season rather than later and it being masked as something that is not. There's a lot of time to adjust. This is also the front end of a back-to-back like we talked about before we hopped on this post-game. You got another opportunity tomorrow in less than 24 hours. Get to it.
Yeah. And they need to because this was a blown opportunity, to be honest with you, especially with Dallas coming in tomorrow, second night of a back-to-back. This was a golden opportunity to start the year 2-0, get off to that 2-1 split we were talking about for these first 3 games. You blew that, so now you have to come back tomorrow. And I would like to see a bounce-back performance from Devin Booker because these first 2 games have not been good. Like, this is not the Devin Booker that we are used to seeing. I thought he was great in the first quarter, which coincidentally is when the Suns were great. And I think after that, things progressively got worse throughout the rest of the game. we need the real Devin Booker back in Game 3 tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll continue to talk about Devin Booker, and we will also discuss Jusu Nurkic on the other side. But first, a quick break. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They are here for you for sports, for music, for comedy, for theater, but whatever you are looking to get into, any ticketed event, Game Time has you covered. One of my favorite things is they're all in pricing, so you can see exactly what you are going to pay up front. No surprises, nothing like that at all with Game Time. Game Time Picks also is amazing because its curation makes it easier to save more on sports, comedy, theater, concerts, and more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time. Listen, that loss did not feel good.
No.
Right? Did not feel good at all. However, something that does feel good, at least for me, I can't speak for you guys, I'm wearing my Branded Bills hat, and I'm going to be completely honest with everybody, the most comfortable hat I've ever owned in my entire life, and I'm very much a hat person. I basically wear a hat every single day, and ever since I was introduced to Branded Bills, I've been rocking them basically every single day. You can elevate your brand with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel. They've got snapbacks, truckers, fitted beanies, and tees. That's right, beanies, Lindsay. They have that for you. Plus, you can get your own brand as it is Branded Bills. I know we're going to be getting some custom PHNX merch. You can put your own business and company on there. They really are here to help you out. They're a local company based out of Mesa, Arizona. They have partnerships with wonderful schools like Arizona State University, and they do charity work down in Tucson with the University of Arizona. And if that isn't enough for you, you can get 20% off your first order. All you have to do, go to brandedbills.com. Use code PHNX for 20% off that first order of hats.
All right, let's go ahead and talk about Devin Booker and his performance. We'll dive deeper into this. He finished with 23 points, 1 turnover, 1 block, 1 steal, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, was 9 of 21 from the field, 4 of 10 from deep. We did get a super chat from Rudy. Rudy said, "Who's complaining about KD ISO? ? He was the only player who was going for us in the second. Book stunk up the joint, even on defense. This is like last year all over again. Tom, and tomorrow we have Dallas. Dang, 1-2 to start the season."
So, I mean, to answer your first question, just check the chat. Scroll up. There's plenty of people complaining about literally every single player on the team right now. So that just comes with the territory, unfortunately. But I will say, like, KD had it going tonight. He probably should have had a few more shots come his way. But they're still falling into this tendency of having KD initiate from the top of the key a little bit too much. And with Kevin Durant, you want to get him going in his spots, off the ball, getting him catch and shoot looks, getting him in advantageous situations where he can curl around a screen and catch the ball in his spot at the elbows or in the post where he can go to work. Having him initiate is part of why he had the 3 turnovers, because that's just not his biggest strength compared to how you can better utilize him. I think we saw in the third quarter when Devin Booker was trying to do a little bit too much. It just wasn't a good combination. They're still trying to fill that out. It feels pretty obvious on that front.
I feel like with KD, in this game, he was just trying to make whatever could work.
Right.
And again, that's another adjustment that we need to see out of Mike Budenholzer and this team is figuring it out, right? Like, figure out where do you put this guy to give him the most efficient performance? Because, 11 of 17 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 6 of 7 from the line, 30 points on the night. I know we'll get into it more later, but that's a good night from Kevin Durant. But can you utilize him in maybe a different way that opens up a Devin Booker, even a Bradley Beal as well, because they were in attack mode. Lindsay, more on this game, like, Devin Booker put his foot on the gas at certain points. Bradley Beal put his foot on the gas at certain points. But can they find a way for all 3 of them to play off of it together and all the pieces around them to fit in? Right now, it still kind of feels like a your turn, my turn kind of thing. And those type of teams don't win championships.
It feels like when this team reverts to the your turn, my turn dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes it's coming at the defense not being at the level that it needs to be at. So when they're consistently taking the ball at the basket, teams are set in their matchups as well as whatever it is their scheme is that they're running defensively. Now you're going against the grain versus playing with that free-flowing nature that Mike Budenholzer holds of high value as much as anything else that he has in terms of principles to his offense. They have to be better at letting their defense be an equal piece to their offense as much as their flow and as much as the different actions that they like to cycle through. I don't think that there is like a mechanical flaw in it. I just think they have to be better defensively.
Yes.
Or in addition to that, obviously, like you talked about, be better with the turnovers because the turnovers compromise your defense, and now you have to inevitably take the ball at the basket. So these things are kind of hand in hand. I think if there's a big positive to take from the negativity, a lot of them are intertwined. The turnovers compromise the defense. The defense compromises the offense. You take away the top of that being the turnovers, you start to mitigate a lot of the issues that come after that.
But I think that's the problem, right, is that one problem isn't just one problem. One problem is dominoing into multiple problems.
And the bigger question is, can you actually fix that one problem that dominoes into all of the other ones? Because that problem is what we dealt with all last season. We've dealt with it in, again, just 2 games. I'm aware of that. But it makes you start spiraling and asking yourself, is this going to be another full season of the same thing?
Yeah.
Is it fixable? Especially since you brought in Tyus Jones, you brought in Monte Morris, and you're like, okay, well, I thought that was supposed to fix the problem.
Yeah.
Well, at least some people do.
Yeah, no, and you look offensively, like they still put up 116. They still shot 51% and 46% from 3 while getting up 37 threes. The problem was the turnovers bled over into the defense, and the defense was my biggest issue tonight because you look at it and there were, like, we know that Nurk is going to be in drop coverage. We know that for the most part that is how Mike Budenholzer is going to utilize him. There were back-to-back plays in that third quarter where LeBron James got a screen and hit a 3 at the top of the key, and Bradley Beal went under the screen both times. That's a problem. The fact that Bradley Beal is having to guard LeBron James in crunch time, that's a potential problem. And these are things that are not going to get better. There were little moments in the third quarter especially where just a little lapse on the defensive end, Devin Booker losing Austin Reeves off the ball, those types of things are going to free up your opponent for easy looks, and you just can't afford that. Like you said, Steven, on Twitter, the margin for error defensively is really small with this group.
Yeah, and it's a non-negotiable. It is not until they buy into, accept, and really start to put a stamp on things defensively that they'll start to see what their true potential is. If they don't get to that point, then they never figure out what the potential of this actual roster is this season. I think, as we spoke about before the season started, a lot of people were talking about the turnovers being something to worry about, points conceded in the paint, offensive rebounds conceded. It's defense for me. It will be defense for me all season. I don't think there's anything that can change that. Obviously, there's some things that they can mitigate, like I just mentioned, to help their defense. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how many stops can they get. Because they can get 116 on average all season long. That's not out the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
Can they stop opponents from getting 116?
I don't disagree with you as defense being the main focus, especially the emphasis. I know Devin Booker had mentioned it. It was a main storyline for him, coming off of the I'll Do It Olympics and defending. And listen, when you get a Tyus Jones, there are so many positives to adding that to your starting lineup, but there are definite defensive liabilities. We mentioned in our pregame show. Who's guarding Rui Hachimura, right? Who's guarding these teams that can go big? You don't have that counter to it in your starting lineup. Now, you do have some on your bench, and I think they should have gone to that a little bit more in the second half. But to kind of play devil's advocate on you, Steven, like, I understand defense a big part of it. Devin Booker, 9 of 21 from the field. He needs to be better, right? He needs to be better on offense. He needs to be the Devin Booker that we know. And part of the reason why you're excited about getting Tyus Jones and the reason why you're willing to give up that size disadvantage is because you think you could put Devin Booker in that killer mode. And he shot the ball like he was in killer mode tonight, but it still felt like he just wasn't all the way there. He should not have led the team in shots with the way that he was shooting. Kevin Durant should have with 11 of 17 from the field. Now, I say that knowing that Devin Booker can be better and knowing that this team doesn't reach their ceiling unless him and KD are operating on an extremely high level, and Bradley Beal is dang near close to that too. They need to be able to outscore opponents because they cannot just rely on a defensive identity. They need to be better defensively, but they still have to be good offensively and be more efficient to even hang with teams like these Lakers team that pose a really hard offensive matchup for them.
So, like I talked about pregame, they have to be able to get out in the open floor. Whether it's transition, whether it's a secondary break or their flow offense that they're getting into, they have to get out on the break and play in space. That's what Mike Budenholzer, that's what optimizes his general system. They only had 9 deflections tonight.
Yeah.
We could have went out there and got 9 deflections. Like I'm so
Maybe
confident in that. And to the point, Bradley Beal having to do things he shouldn't be tasked with.
Yeah.
He was accountable for 4 of those 9.
Yeah.
That just can't be it for this team if they plan to be where they desire to be. That's a collective thing. Deflections are definitely like a microcosm of what a team's temperature is. I would love to ask Mike Budenholzer what stats he looks at to gauge their defense on a gamely basis. Deflections have to be a puzzle piece within all of that. And having just 9 in this game that's not going to get it done against any contending realm team or any team that's a playoff level team.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's dive a little bit deeper into some of the numbers from tonight's game by taking a peek at what's inside the box presented by Desert Financial Credit Union, Arizona's #1 credit union named by Forbes.
Well, what's in the box is a 123-116 loss. As you can see from the field goal percentage, the Suns shot the ball well. As you can see from the threes, they took 10 more threes than their opponent, made 3 more. They shot 46% from 3. That should be good enough, but when you are giving up 52% shooting from 3 on the other side, it balances out pretty quickly there. 17 turnovers for the Suns, 13 for the Lakers, and the Lakers scored 26 points off of those turnovers. That's literally the difference, 26-19, 7-point difference. You lose by 7. The free throws, and that's something we're definitely going to talk about. Anthony Davis had 17 free throws by himself, which is how many the Phoenix Suns had as an entire organization tonight. The Lakers took 39 threes and scored 14 more points than the Suns from the free throw line. Yes, Austin Reeves drives me crazy with the way that he draws fouls. Yes, the Lakers have gotten a beneficial whistle dating back to last year when they had a massive free throw discrepancy compared to their opponent. But this team is going to have to find ways to put pressure on the rim. Like Bradley Beal's kind of the only guy that we can point to and say, yes, he'll drive, he'll get to the rim. They've got to find ways to put pressure on the rim and to get to the foul line because as much as, yes, we want them to shoot a lot of threes, you also have to get to the basket. You have to get to the foul line. Taking 22 fewer free throws than your opponent is just not a recipe for success.
And that's kind of where they miss Grayson Allen, too, a little bit as well.
Yeah. We have a couple super chats about this. J5 Media sent us one and said, you can't play sloppy while the Lakers get their patented whistles. That's how they clawed back. And then Alfredo sent us one as well and said, can you talk about the free throw discrepancy? What do you think?
So the game was rigged. And that is 100% what I'm going to roll with now.
I watched it live. I don't know what's going on here, but it is not right. I don't remember what exactly she said.
I'll speak to that a little bit. So they only had 2 free throw attempts in the first half.
Yeah.
I think that's something we talked about. I think it was on Tuesday, the day before the Suns' regular season debut. We talked about a lot of their process on offense being drive and kick, but the ultimate value being paint touches, not directly for attempts at the basket, but to open up wide open 3-point shots.
Yes.
That's some of the trade-off. A ton of the drives from Bradley Beal and his assist in the first half resulted in 3-point attempts. It wasn't him attacking to score for himself. I think that's something that's going to be a delicate balance. Obviously, the king in the NBA is 3-point shooting, but you have to be able to balance it out with some free throws in some capacity too.
Right.
It's not just that you can copy and paste the way that the Boston Celtics play and marry the free throw shooting in addition to high volume 3-point shooting. You have to find a balance that fits for your team, your personnel. I don't feel like they struck that accord for a comprehensive game, but the first half, even though they only had 2 free throw attempts, you wouldn't argue with that because of how many threes they hit.
Right. Yeah, listen, you're going to play the Lakers. You're going to be at a free throw discrepancy. But at the same time, there was a lot of really stupid fouls. The KD contest on the 83, that's already such a tough shot. That's a huge momentum swing. And you didn't need to do that, right? And those are the mental errors and the mistakes. When you add those on top of the turnovers, when you add those on top of some poor shooting nights, you can't win games that way, whether it's against the Lakers or not, right? And the Lakers did get a beneficial whistle, that's for sure. But there were a bunch of moments, Gerald, where it was still like, yep, the Suns messed that up. Even, the call that they challenged, that they ended up actually wasting their challenge on, like, that's a foul too. Like, you can't do that in a game where you already had the lead, you already had the momentum, now everything's gone, and you just continue to help them get ahead and stay ahead by making your own mistakes.
They had 7 guys with at least 3 fouls, and I think 3 with 4, like, it was across the board, just too many fouls. There was the one that Oso had when Austin Reeves was driving and flailing. Like, You know he's going to do that. Even as a rookie, you know he's going to do that. There were just little examples scattered throughout the game that when you look back at the end of it, it's like, man, that is a mountain of fouls, free throws, mistakes that you can get around. Like, yes, the Lakers are probably usually going to have that advantage, but especially if you're not getting to the rim, if you're not, like you said, that trade-off between getting to the paint and producing threes versus getting to the paint and producing layups or free throws, you've just got to be better on the defensive end. And to your point, Steven, like Bradley Beal, 8 assists in the first half, was getting downhill, touching the paint, ball was spreading, taking a lot of threes, only 1 assist for Bradley Beal in the second half. That feels emblematic of the way that they stopped doing what worked with the ball movement, with the drive and kick game, and with the being able to generate good threes in the second half.
And they were killing it as far as winning that 3-point battle early on in this game. And so that's like the tough balance, right? Like, again, it's just going away from what works.
Right.
And it's just like, can you not? Maybe.
you
Like,
not?
I know it's not as simple as that, but really at the end of the day, it's like, can you just not?
Yeah.
All right, we have a ton of super chats to get into. Everybody wants to talk about Jusu Nurkic, and we will do that on the other side of a quick break. PHNX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. Sanderson Ford is a proud partner of the Arizona Diamondbacks and November Knights 2024 at Chase Field on Saturday, November 16th. For tickets and more info, go to novemberknights.com. And of course, as you all know, Sanderson Ford, they are all about family, and they thrive on no hassle, no pressure, and no nonsense sales approach. They've been family owned and operated through 3 generations. Right now, you can head to Sanderson Ford and check out new Ford F-150 trucks with 3.9 financing for 60 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back, and pick up a free pair of tickets to see Weezer, Sublime, and more at November Nights while supplies of 100 tickets last. No purchase or test drive required. Disclaimer, offer on 2024 Ford F-150s, STX OAC from Ford Credit, 1 pair of tickets per household, and requires a valid driver's license.
We were out here at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and it was the only good thing about tonight was the awesome community that we have out here. Like, seriously, it is one of my favorite things to come out here for our watch parties. We can all hang out, have fun, watch the Suns. We're going to have more here, but it's not just watch parties at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, because truly, nobody does it better. They can visit any of their 4 locations, Wild Horse Pass, which we are at right now, Lone Butte, Vequiva, Santan Mountain. You can do it for, just a night out on the town. Maybe you want to get away and go on a staycation. Just go get some food too. They have anything ranging from upscale to approachable as well. Gila River Resorts and Casinos is the perfect place for you to go. Plus, we have Cardinals watch parties on all away games here as well. And did I mention that all of those were free? Shout out to Jay Dollarsign, who was in our pregame chat. He was like, hey, maybe I'll come out there. I said, come out here. He came out here, and now he said he's going to be at every single event going forward. Plus, you can earn entries for Ferrari Fortunes every Friday at 7 p.m. Winners are drawn for cash prizes and free bonus play. The grand finale will take place on November 1st at Wild Horse Pass, where one lucky winner will win a Ferrari 488 GTB. And remember, you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details.
All right, real quick, because I think things are going to get real negative real fast here. Since you did just talk about our watch party out here at Wild Horse Pass Hotel and Casino, I do want to give a shout out. Jonathan, as you mentioned, Jay Money in the chat, came out to his first watch party. It was an absolute blast to meet you. Thank you for coming. Alyssa always comes. Alyssa drives an hour and a half to come out to these watch parties.
That's
Shout
crazy.
out to you,
Dedicated.
Alyssa. Yeah.
Love that.
And then Dale and Nita, they drive about 50 minutes to come to these watch parties. You guys are amazing. Of course, Mark, Chris, Shane Young was out here as well.
Shout out
Corey,
Shane.
Aline, Peter, and the other Shane Diefenbach, he was also
Shout
here
out
too.
other Shane too, yep.
All the Shanes.
It was so much fun to see you guys again after what felt like an endless off season. I'm like, how have you been? Where have you been? All these things. It just felt like you got to see old friends again for the first time. So hopefully you guys can join us for our next one. Keep an eye out at the events tab at gophnx.com. It's got all the information that you will need for watch parties, takeovers where we actually go to games together, and so much more. Okay, you want to get negative?
No.
Let's get negative.
Yeah.
We got a lot of super chats to get into here. 2 off the top from Trevor. Thank you, Trevor, for your super chats. They said, tired of Nurk's lazy-ass passes. Suns blew the game. Sent another one and said easily be 2-0 if Book plays better, but he went cold. Should I just read all the bad Nurk ones?
We should just,
Let's
just get them out.
All right, here we go.
Let's get them out the way.
Vernon sent us one. Thank you, Vernon. They said, we need to get Nurk the F out of here, dude. An awkward center. Alfredo sent us one and said, unfortunately, Nurk the best player for the opposing team right now. Oof. Hopefully they find ways to win in spite of him and not because of him. Okay. Zobi said, we lost because we didn't make BB were cold. Wait, we didn't make shoot? What?
We didn't make shots. BB were cold.
Oh,
Bradley
shots,
Beal?
not shoot.
Book and Beal?
Book and Beal, all of the above.
All of our BBs were cold.
All the BBs.
All the BBs.
All the BBs. We'll save love y'all for a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Hector said, Lakers are just a bad matchup for us. AD has our number. Mm-hmm. And then
I disagree with that one.
Alfredo said, thank you for the response, but Book doesn't get calls. Okay.
Where do we want to start?
Let's start with Nurk. I said we were going to start with Nurk, so I think we start with Nurk.
All right, yeah. Nurk was bad tonight. He's not going to be that bad for the rest of the season or for most of the season. He is going to be a liability in some ways on the defensive end. He is going to have nights where, like, we need him to make threes if he's going to continue to take them. We talked about this last night. Like, yes, there are advantages strategically to him taking threes. Like we talked about Steven, him being the first guy back in transition. If he's going to be missing shots, it's better for him to be missing threes where he can get back on defense than at the rim where he's the last guy down the floor. But yeah, the turnovers were bad. His turnovers directly were, like you said, what felt like the momentum shift in that second quarter. It felt demoralizing, like, man, we're back here again. And that just, everything snowballed from there. He's got to be better, like 4 points, 1 for 5 shooting, and then Anthony Davis goes off on the other end. He has to be better. I don't know, like, he's not going to be this bad again, but there are going to be nights like this, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but there will be nights like this. Devin Booker didn't have his best game in the first game.
No.
Nurk, clearly to the dismay of plenty of people in our chat and on Twitter and everywhere else in Suns world, did not enjoy seeing Nurkic's minutes tonight. It happens from time to time. We also understand that Nurkic is not a player that's an all-star level player. You have to just kind of look at it the right way. Yes, it's a bad game. Flush it, move forward. You know he's capable of these things. We're not surprised. You know what you have in Jusu Nurkic. You know what he can do. You know what he can't do.
Well, that's kind of part of the reason right now where it's like, hey, he didn't have a full preseason. Can he fix it? Can he get better? I think Mike Budenholzer sees the problem, and I think you saw it in Game 1 when they went small ball, when they took Nurk off the court. I think he understands that there's going to be certain games where Jusuf Nurkic just cannot play or cannot play a lot, and this was one of those games. He only had 18 minutes. That's about half of everybody else in the starting lineup, and you can win games with Jusuf Nurkic not playing great, but you can't win games when Jusuf Nurkic is being an outright negative. I know we don't like to go into single game plus minus, but he was clearly the leader with a negative 19 on the floor, and he didn't make a positive impact in one specific way. He tied the team for a lead in rebounds with Mason Plumlee, but he wasn't dominant on the boards. It was almost 7, right? Only 7. He had 4 assists. He had 4 turnovers to go along with it. He wasn't finishing in the paint. He took 2 shots inside the three-point line, and he went 0 of 3 without it. That's all negatives all across the board. Even if you play in a short amount of time, you have to bring one positive thing, and he's not doing that right now.
I just think when it comes to Nurk, it feels like he's doing too much. Like, it's like, you're not that guy. You know what I mean?
Not that guy, pal.
I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, but it's also like, you're not, though.
They've got to dial back some of the ambitiousness with his passes a little bit. Because, like I said, there are going to be situations where the backdoor cut is open and the pass is slightly off target, or the defender sticks with it and is able to get a hand on the ball. That is going to happen. That's what comes with the backdoor cut territory and having a big who can make those plays. But the turnovers tonight specifically and the other night as well, they felt like things that were very avoidable, like him just being sloppy with the ball or trying to do a little bit too much with it. I think those are things that can be dialed back, but we've been saying that for 12 months now with a lot of these turnovers, and it hasn't happened. It hasn't been fixed by bringing in point guards, which goes back to what I've been saying all along. Like, your best guys, Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Jusu Nurkic, guys that are going to be handling the ball and operating in those spaces, have to take better care of the ball. Adding in Tyus Jones and Monte Morris does nothing to fix this problem if you can't get that out of those 4 guys specifically.
Yeah, it feels like Nurkic at times, because he has the ball in his hands so much. Last season he was doing a lot of the playmaking because they needed him to. They didn't have a point guard. They needed to have a pressure release in multiple capacities. It feels like this season he's operating with that same mindset, but this is not the same context that he was in last season.
Right.
I think that, like Eric said, this is only his, I don't know how many days that he's actually been, playing with the team since he returned.
He had
from
1
injury.
preseason game, and now he's had 2 regular season games.
So he's still in preseason mode in terms of his rhythm as a basketball player. And for all the dismay, Nurkic is very much a rhythm basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making any excuses. I'm not trying to be a Nurkic apologist. I've been hypercritical of him, but I've made it appropriate. I want to make sure you apply the context with him because he's not a terrible player.
Right.
One of the things that was exciting about getting Tyus Jones, about getting Monte Morris, was with the KD part of it and the Book part of it, you could put them in better natural positions to score. And then there was the use of Nurkic side of things where you simplify his role. He's a pick and pop or he's a pick and roll. He doesn't need to do a lot. You get the ball fed to you on a silver spoon and you just lay it up or you shoot a 3. You don't need him to do a ton. And it's unfortunate that either he's putting himself in a position to do that or the coaching staff is, but either way that has to change. You have to start leaning into your strengths for Phoenix. I know it's 2 games, but early in the season, Lindsay, it's important to establish good habits and good patterns, and so far through 2 games, there's a lot of things about the system offensively that they're running out there that I think needs to change.
Yeah, and hopefully Bud can figure this out and figure it out sooner rather than later so that we can start stacking some wins together and hopefully calm the trauma from bubbling back up of years past, right? All right. So we have
that ship has sailed,
I don't know if we can, but maybe. You never know. A couple more things from the Super Chats. AD having our number. Steven, you said you don't fully agree with that one?
No, I don't agree because there are multiple avenues for the Suns to shut the door on this team. With much earned respect to Anthony Davis and LeBron James. As I said pregame, verbatim, they can't guard on the perimeter. Bradley Beal, 8 assists in the first half, multiple, like a solid portion of those assists resulted in 3s. No one can stay in front of him. Devin Booker, no one can stay in front of him, particularly in the first quarter. Kevin Durant, nobody can stay in front of him in terms of stopping him from putting the ball in the basket.
Right.
The Lakers have no one on the perimeter to guard anybody on the Suns that is their top 3 scorers. They just didn't go through their process the appropriate way, in tandem with everything else that we already spoke to, that really stifled them in this particular matchup. If the Suns hit the notes that they know that they can on consistency, I don't really see a way that this Lakers team can do what they do to from most of the teams that are, trying to be in the contending realm. I just don't see it.
Okay. The next part is Alfredo saying that he appreciated our response about the fouls tonight, but he doesn't agree in the sense that Book doesn't get calls. He doesn't think that Book gets calls. Do you guys agree with that? I do think Book's whistle isn't as quick as it should be for his caliber of player, in my opinion.
Austin Reeves gets 10 times the whistle that any of the Suns' big 3 does, and that is so infuriating.
Yeah.
I hate Austin Reeves. I hate him. I hate him because he's good, but I also hate him because he gets superstar treatment to the max, and that's the Laker effect of things. But you know by now, if you're Devin Booker, you're not getting that whistle. You're year 10 in the league. You know how you're getting treated. Same thing with Bradley Beal, same thing with Kevin Durant. Like, it's not like you're new to this, right? If you're not going to get the calls, figure out how to play around it. It sucks, but you have to adjust and adapt. That's how it's always been with the Lakers.
I mean, I get that, but it's not isolated to just the Lakers. It's
No,
not
I get
just
it,
when
yeah.
the Suns play the Lakers. It's any time throughout the NBA. And it also happens to guys like Kevin Durant, too, which is insanity. Like, okay, you want to argue Book, whatever, maybe I'll give you that one. You can't make that argument against Kevin Durant.
I mean, KD got there 7 times. Like, he got there a decent amount. Book, there were like 1 or 2 calls that I was like, yeah, that probably should have been a foul. They were kind of touch and go. Austin Reeves exaggerates the contact. He is the foul merchant that y'all have been complaining about James Harden for years. He is that guy.
Weren't they supposed to crack down on that, Gerald?
I don't know what to tell you. It's
I
the
thought
Lakers.
that was
I don't know.
a thing.
I don't know what to tell you. The Lakers
Maybe
are still going to do
not
this.
from the Lakers.
But yeah, like they I think for the Suns, it goes to the system. It goes to the fact that you're going to be trading a lot of threes for free throws and shots at the rim. You have to find a way to have some balance there. Like, we want to get up 35, 40 threes a night. That's good. But you also have to find a way to attack the rim, and it can't just be Bradley Beal. It has to be Book, because Book and KD are very super efficient at the rim. They're very good in that area. Book might just have to exaggerate the contact a little bit more, which kind of runs counter to what we've seen from him for years. He's the guy that will not, flop a lot. And sometimes you kind of have to do that. We saw that with Austin Reeves tonight, just throwing the head back a couple of times and getting a whistle for it. As much as I hate to say it, that's kind of where the NBA is at right now, and Book might need to exaggerate a little bit more if he wants to get to the foul line more often.
That's especially your latter part is where my mindset is. There's a line, it's either you play the game or you let the game play you.
Yeah.
And then there's a bar that comes after that. That's a cold bar. But point being, you have to adapt and adjust. Otherwise, you're going to succumb to not having that be to your favor. That's just something with Devin Booker. It's not for a lack of drives in terms of volume. Yeah. It's not for a lack of ability to create contact either. He just has to relish it or embellish a little bit more than he, naturally is as a player. It's unfortunate that it has to be like that. Yeah. But if you want the benefit of the whistle to slow the game down, up your opportunities while the clock is stopped, and keep your defense set, that's definitely a piece and avenue for them to go about doing that.
I just don't know if Book has that in him, and not in the sense of like complaining, because we've seen him do that before. We've seen him exaggerate multiple times before. I don't know if he can fully sell it when the refs buy into it, is what I'm saying.
The gamesmanship of it all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's just like, no, just call it how it should be, right? And then I don't know if the acting is top-notch enough to really pull that off. We'll see, I guess.
If it was all that simple.
Yeah.
If only it was all that simple. All right, guys. So Eric just wrote me a note. Okay, so there was a couple other things that I wanted to talk about from tonight's game, and it comes from a super chat that we got here from Love Y'all. So they said, bright side, Ryan Dunn, winky face. We have to give some love to the rookie Ryan Dunn tonight. Granted, he only played 14 minutes in this one, but he finished with 9 points. He had 1 assist, 3 rebounds, 3 of 5 from deep.
Yeah. That's
like that portion of the game where Ryan Dunn was knocking him down was so electric. This place, Wild Horse Pass Hotel and Casino, was a vibe in that moment.
That was the last time I felt happy.
You see?
Yeah, no, legitimately, yes. I don't understand why he's only playing 14 minutes this game. Right, he gave you 14 extremely good minutes on both sides of the ball. He electrified your team. You even heard it in Bradley Beal's mic'd up segment. He was getting excited because of Ryan Dunn, and for the right reason. He got in there and he just shot the ball, and he shot it well. And when you make great defensive plays on the likes of LeBron James, on the likes of Anthony Davis, and then you go on the other end and you nail 3-pointers, those are momentum swinging 4, 5, 6-point possessions. Like, oh, they missed and then you score. They missed and then you score. How do you not go to that when you have no momentum in the second half? I don't understand that. He should have played at least like the same amount of minutes as a Mason Plumlee tonight, who had 19. He should have played at least 5 to 10 more minutes just because it was working. You go with what's working, and Ryan Dunn was working.
I think what happened is they got caught up in the flow of the game because he played a good amount in that first half, especially that second quarter. And then it felt like in the third quarter, things started to slip away quickly. Ryan Dunn doesn't get in until like a minute left in that third, and then he comes out at the 8:30 mark of the fourth because things have fully spiraled by that point. And at that point, you have to put your starters back in to try and salvage the game. But I agree with you. I think the opportunity was there earlier in the third, especially when things started to get away from them a little bit. Not just because he was shooting the ball well, but because you needed some defense in that mix as well. You needed some hustle. And then that was disappointing for me because he did play so well in that first half. But in that second stint, like he had a shooting foul, he missed his 3. a little bit shorter leash in the second half, unfortunately.
Well, and a shorter leash because you're at the point where the game is basically away and you have to scratch and claw.
Right.
I feel like Ryan Dunn is the perfect momentum shifter. You just drop him in when you need to sick him on the other team and say go. And you missed your opportunity to put him in there because that's part of the reason, Stephen, why in the first half they were able to get out to that big lead. They were able to carry that momentum over is because when the bench came in, when Ryan Dunn came in, he changed the play on both sides of the ball. You need to go to that option earlier. I don't care if he's a rookie. You need to trust him in that spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. And to the point of the super chat, which we appreciate those always.
Yes, sir.
I want to also in tandem with Ryan Dunn, because we'll never do it on the show for reasons that are not loud to the box score. Also, shout out Royce O'Neal.
Yeah.
I'm dubbing them now the blue-collar boys. I said that this team has a lot of players that do things in a finesse style. They do some of the more glamorous type of things on the floor, but that a team is a puzzle piece. You need the pieces at the bottom, or in the middle, rather, for these two that do those blue-collar, gritty things that connect things and that allow for your fancy pieces to be fancy. Those two players do just that. Their tandem impact was felt, obviously, in that second quarter stretch. Royce O'Neal a little bit more after that than Ryan. But I don't think that this team can be where they desire to be long-term without those two being heavy within the rotation.
Yeah.
And we felt that impact in multiple stretches, particularly on defense with those two on the floor tonight.
Yeah.
Outside of that one really bad turnover that he had when the Suns kept turning the ball over and then momentum was spiraling away, he was great. And his willingness to guard up a position is huge. It's not just about ability, but it is about that willingness to do it. He's a great connective piece on both ends. We've been saying it when we did our season preview and going into the year. It feels like he is going to be an overlooked part. And again, people will have their qualms with single game plus minus, but a plus 14 in 28 minutes, and you felt it tonight for sure.
You can't ignore it. You just cannot ignore it. If you're really assessing things comprehensively, you can't ignore what he's doing off the bench in tandem, obviously, with Ryan Dunn.
Yeah, I mean, he even filled up the box score. I know that's not the point of this conversation, but like 7 points, a steal, 4 assists, and 4 rebounds. I'm not mad at that at all from Royce O'Neal. No,
Solid.
Not at all. That was a solid outing. All right, more super chats here. The producer behind the Mac, Shane Diefenbach, sent us a sticker, and it is described as a Shiba dog with sparkles in his eyes saying, quote, my hero. Thank you,
About
Shane.
Ryan
About
Dunn.
Ryan Dunn. That's right.
Just not randomly. Just
Not randomly.
It was about Ryan Dunn.
Specifically. All right, JC sent us one as well. Thank you, JC. They said Nurk got too much of a leash from fans last season because he wasn't DA. Dude got played off the court versus Minnie, and Minnie didn't even need to go small.
Nurk got a leash?
I don't think he got a leash from fans last year.
Nurk got. It was just
not on my
bad.
timeline.
Nurk has been pummeled for the last year now, but no, I get your point. Like that, we talked about it ad nauseum after that series. Like that was a series he needed to be able to stay on the floor.
Yep.
He couldn't. That is concerning moving forward. In games like tonight, ditto for that. Like he's just got to be better, or you've got to examine other options. And we've talked about this too. There aren't a lot of options that are out there trade-wise that you could realistically pull off. So it might just be what it is on that front, unfortunately.
And you're at a point where if you're only playing him 18 minutes a night and you're showing that you don't have faith in him, and he's showing that he didn't develop his 3-ball, and he might have lost his biggest skill, which is, his ability to be an incredible rebounder because he lost weight. Teams do not want that kind of guy. He needs to find a way to make a legitimate impact, like I mentioned before, all the way across the board, Steven. There was nothing here that you pointed at and said that was a positive that Jusu Nurkic brought this game.
I'll disagree with that. The 7 rebounds in 18 minutes, that's 14
I guess
for
in
36.
18 minutes, yeah.
But yeah, to your point, the rebounding in this game particularly didn't move the needle at all for you. So he was mostly just a negative tonight. He's got to be better, absolutely.
For me, though, past the box score stuff, like the super box score stuff, I didn't feel his impact as a screener today.
No.
I don't think that's a non-negotiable for him. Everybody brings certain things to the table that you expect in your process to be there every game. Nurkic didn't have his screening impact there. He only had 1 deflection. I mentioned he led the team in deflections last season, led the team in stocks. Those 2 things in particular, if nothing else, he has to bring those 2. Has to.
Raymond sent us one. Thank you, Raymond. He said, we haven't had a home game yet, and some people are already jumping off the bandwagon. Give me a break. I mean, fair, Raymond. We
It's
probably
very fair.
should have
We're-
a couple more games under our belt before we start diving off the deep end.
We're damaged. We're damaged
we
people.
are. We really are.
The fans in the chat, we're all damaged together, but we're all
We
certainly
are.
damaged because, yeah, it's game 2. They're 1-1. It's 2 tough teams on the road to start the season when you weren't fully even healthy in preseason, and you're not even fully healthy tonight. You're missing your 6th man in Grayson Allen right now.
Right.
But when the problems are that glaring and the same that you had last year, it's hard not to go down that doomsday spiral. So I get it.
And if you're trying to be positive, just listen to Austin. Thank you, Austin, for sending us a super chat. Their first one ever on a live stream. They said, Coach Budenholzer's system works and is successful in the NBA. The Hawks started 2-3 in their first 5 in 2013 and ended up 6th in the East. The Bucks were 3-2 in their first 5, then went on and won the East in 2018.
Yep. I mean, and we've
So
seen
you're
it
saying we got to wait for 5 games before we decide?
just more than 2. Literally more than 2 is
3.
good. Like, we've seen it here in Phoenix, too. The team that went to the finals, they started 8-8 with a lot of new pieces. I'm pretty sure the team that won 64 games, what did they start, like 1-3, 1-2, something like that, when everybody was freaking out? Like, we got to give it more than a week into the season. Not even a week. Half a week into the season. I understand that a lot of these problems are familiar. I understand the impulse to think that it's a problem with the core and not the coach, and that the point guards and all this newness is not going to fix it. But you do have to give them a little bit of time to work through a new coach, a new system, new point guards, all of this newness. It's not just going to happen overnight. And, like, to their credit, the Lakers have all of their same guys back. They do have an advantage in the continuity side of things, and I do think they're going to be a good team under J.J. Redick this year, too.
Rome wasn't built in one day. Bad habits aren't undone through one training camp cycle with a new regime, new coaching staff, brand new players, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
We talked about all of this when the schedule dropped, honestly, talking about how we're going to learn a whole lot about this Suns team through the first quarter and a half of the regular season. We're literally 2 games in.
Yeah.
You want to learn these things early. The schedule gets sweeter, per se, later on in the season. You want to have those growing pains early on, figure out what you need to do, whether it be trades, whether it be schematic changes, principle changes, whatever it is, earlier rather than later. They're right in position to do that. Again, I just want to be the woosah.
Yeah. It's a matter of perspective. You're on the road in LA, and we mentioned the pregame show. Sometimes you stay in the road in LA. You're not your full self. You lose by 7 points after having a large lead. You can look at the large lead as a positive. You could see what happens when you're playing well. And you had less than half of the free throw attempts of the other team. Now, all the things we talked about before all make sense. Those are all problems, and they all need to be fixed. But give them time to prove that they can fix it, and then you can panic and maybe 10, 15 games in, if we're sitting here having the same conversation. That's a really, really tough thing to look at. Right now, address the problem, acknowledge the problem, and then go and fix it. That's what needs to happen.
Alfredo sent us a super chat again and said, you all are the best. Appreciate you. Always win. Thank you, Alfredo. We appreciate
Thanks
you.
for the positive energy.
Yes, as
It's
well.
not doomsday. It's far too early for that.
We appreciate all of you being here and being active in the chat. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Give yourself a like for being here with us. We appreciate it. Also, hit that thumbs up button for Kevin Durant because he is tonight's big, bright, shiny star presented by Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. KD finished tonight with 30 points. He had a block, 6 assists, 4 rebounds, was 11 of 17 from the field, and 2 of 3 from deep.
KD was great. He was great tonight. Like, we probably should have gotten him a couple more shots, probably should have put him in positions easier where he could have scored the ball, but KD is still KD here in year 18, which is absolutely unbelievable how good he still is at this stage of his career. Only him and LeBron James have ever been this good, this deep into their careers and their life, if you look at just age.
Well, speaking on that, this is the highest combined points scored by 2 opponents in one game in NBA history with LeBron James and with Kevin Durant, right?
Yeah.
And KD's continuing to do it. He will always do it. Plus, I think the big number to look at is only 3 turnovers, right? Oh, yeah, it'd be perfect if he had none or if he had 1, but going from 7 last game to 3 this game, that's a massive improvement. But he also still led the team in minutes. I'm curious to see, Steven, if that continues to be a trend, because Budenholzer is the coach who does not like to play his stars big minutes, and Kevin Durant is bucking that trend so far through 2 games.
He is bucking the trend. I'll preface by saying Kevin Durant is what my hat is, a bucket. That's not news to anybody. That being said, he can't lead your team in attempts at the rim and makes at the rim. Not at this latter stage of his career. He's still at the end of his prime, but he's not. That's not sustainable.
Right.
I know he's great, but you want to channel his greatness in the right way, and there's better ways to go about it. I'm appreciating the game that he's bringing. This is what you need from him, but it has to be in addition to. It can't be the end-all, be-all.
You can't put that much on his plate.
Not now.
It's not fair. Nope. And honestly, you look at his minutes from Wednesday's game. Didn't he have 44 minutes in that one, too?
Yes.
Like, Bud is supposed – we've talked about it here before, Gerald. I mean, you pointed out multiple times, and Bud has a track record, a proven track record of being very aware of how many minutes he is requiring and asking from his star players. Granted, again, it's only 2 games, but I hope that he truly does keep an eye out on that one and not have to ask KD for as much as we asked from him last season, because now we got to do it 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Like KD can't catch a break here. Like somebody else can't step up a little bit more.
It's too much. It's not sustainable. You need to have him fresh and ready to go for the playoffs. And if you look at the other guys' minutes, like Beal and Booker only got to 35. This is the second game in a row where KD was at 39 minutes at the end of regulation. That number has to come down. And I really hope that it starts with Ryan Dunn earning a little bit more leeway with his coach, because Ryan Dunn is the guy that's going to help bring that number down, especially like we talked about in pregame. Bol Bol's not his backup anymore, so it's got to be Ryan Dunn that stakes his claim and says, hey, coach, like, I'm ready to play 20 minutes a game. Put me in there.
Are you disappointed that Bol Bol's not getting that look? I mean, we were all excited to see, hey, Bol Bol's going to get a consistent shot and get consistent minutes. And obviously he's not earning it, and there are reasons that we are not going to know and understand because we are not there in the locker room and seeing every single practice. But it feels like in these situations, Mike Budenholzer's been putting a lot of different looks out there, and Bol Bol hasn't even sniffed the court through 2 games, Steven. Does he need to get a shot, at least if anything, to take 2 to 5 minutes away from KD a night?
Well, before I kind of get back to KD, my rebuttal to that is, what is Bol bringing the team that they don't already have that's going on right now, and how can he help to solve some of the issues that we're seeing persist?
I mean, with the length and everything, and you saw him in the preseason, he wasn't focused on scoring as much except for that Denver game. He was focused more on defending and rebounding. And especially if Jusu Nurkic is only going to play 18 minutes, you need somebody who has that stature and has that length. In the moments where he actually even, I know this goes against what I said before, but played alongside KD, that also worked really well last season. The thing with Bol Bol has never been that he brings nothing positive. It's do the positives outweigh the negative. And I think right now he deserves to get a shot. I'm not saying give him a long leash or give him the ball and say ISO and get out of the way. But I feel like give him 4 to 5 minutes, give him some Oso Ighodaro minutes, which weren't that great tonight, and just see what he can do. And if he doesn't perform, and if he doesn't defend, and he doesn't rebound, then you pull the plug. But this is the time to give it a shot, because if you're waiting to 20, 30, 40 games in the season, for a guy like Bol who can kind of get in his own head, I feel like that's going to be doing it a disservice as to what can you actually get out of it.
It seems like, before I get back to KD, it seems like he's not, Bol specifically, not doing the things that Bud needs him to do to earn that trust. He's not Frank Vogel.
Yeah.
You have to get that trust from him for you to, unlock that partner rotation, or at least get the opportunity. But to kind of put a bow on the Kevin Durant thing, one of the things I am enjoying, they've been doing it a lot in the preseason. They did it a handful of minutes, I think in the third quarter, early fourth quarter today. Using him as a screener to flip matchups, and then posting him up, whether that be at the nail in the middle third of the floor where it's hard to send double teams, or hitting him close to the baseline and letting him get in the post-ups from there, trying to work a triangle or getting it directly to him. I think there's a lot of value in that. They have a snappy cadence in that action when they're using him that way, and I would like to see more of it.
Yeah. Also, we got to give a big shout-out to KD because he moved up to 16th on the all-time field goals made list. So congratulations to Kevin Durant for that. I'm surprised he's not higher, to be completely honest. I mean, It's Kevin freaking Durant.
If he doesn't miss that season, he's miles ahead of
He
that.
probably is.
yeah.
That probably
It's
came into
insane.
play for a lot of it, to be honest
Yep.
with you.
It's crazy. He's 8th all-time in points scored and 16th all-time in field goals made.
Wild, right?
That's insane.
Because the man gets buckets from 3 and from the free throw line, too. He
Yeah.
can do it from all 3 levels.
Different.
So congratulations to KD for being our big, bright, shiny star tonight. I think that'll do it for us, you guys. Is there anybody else who you'd like to
We have the report card, so
be
maybe
mad
we need to
or
hand out some
positive
grades.
at?
Oh, we have the
Is
report
it
card?
We
bad?
have the report card. It's not looking good.
feel
Gerald,
like
do
it's
you want to
gonna be
inform
bad.
them?
Yeah, so 30 assists. They got to 30 assists, which is demoralizing. They got 35. The ball was moving. 35 assists on 42 made field goals is good. They attempted more than 35 three-pointers. We love that. 37 threes, and they shot 46% on those threes. Fantastic job on that. They did not hold their opponent to 114 points or less, unfortunately, and that benchmark seems pretty high, but in the modern NBA, especially last year, when they held opponents under there, they fared really well. The 13 or less turnovers, no, we know that, just no. And then the big three did not combine for 75 points yet again. Beal started off strong, Booker
did.
started off strong, and then both of them kind of fizzled a little bit. We need, we're still trying to find that balance between those three of where they're getting the ball, how they're getting set up in those spots. That one might be a work in progress for a little bit.
When you look at those assists too, you're like, hey, we got 35 assists. Well, almost half of them came in the first quarter, and then it was just, again, a slow decline the rest of the way. They had 14 assists in the first quarter alone.
7 per quarter the rest of the way.
goodness.
Okay. Then let's maybe end it on a slightly positive note. Are we allowed to do that? Can we be just a little bit
No.
positive, or do we have to be doomsday right now?
No, you can be positive.
Okay, just a little bit, right? Obviously, everything that happened afterwards sucked.
Terrible.
No denying that. When they were rolling in the first quarter, that ball movement was
fun.
beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful. The defense was great. The three-pointers were there, and it felt like the team that we had been waiting for and the team that we had basically been promised and I know what we said at the beginning of the show, if ifs were fists, we all be drunk.
Yep.
If they can bottle that and expand that to be more consistent over 48 minutes, this will be a threatening team in the West. We just have to see them actually do that first. That's the hurdle that they have to cross.
It would this loss would hit different if there wasn't an abundantly clear template for this team to be the team that they desire to be. That's why I'm not like up in arms. Oh my God, this team sucks. Trade him, fire Mike.
Yep.
This, that, and the third. No,
You're not there yet?
The
What do you mean?
template. You'll come to know me very well this season, Lindsay. I'm never a
I
doomsday
could
person.
never see you being a
Nah,
doomsday person.
definitely
for
not.
sure.
Anybody that knows me, that's not true.
No
but,
chance.
But the avenue is there. It's the movement. Paint touches, paint touches, paint touches. Whether they result in layups, whether they result in wide open three-point opportunities, either is great for this team. They just have to continue to press the button. The template's there. They just have to tap the sign more frequently, more consistently than they did in tonight's game. And I think, honestly, this one, like I said in the opening, is very similar to how the game against the Clippers went. First half, we saw a whole lot of the good stuff. Second half, not so much, particularly in the third quarter. Figure that part out. Things will make a little bit more sense for you.
Well, they've got another shot tomorrow night with the home opener against the Dallas Mavericks. Hooray for the scheduling gods for blessing us with this one.
I'm
talk more
up for
about
it.
that
I'm
one.
up for it. Let's go.
Embrace the grind.
Let's go.
Listen, if there was ever a time to bounce back, it's the second night of back-to-back at home
Against
the
that
Mavs.
particular opponent
Yeah.
in that particular arena, being the Footprint Center. Hope
Absolutely.
all of our supporters are out at the home opener tomorrow.
For sure. If you are unable to make it, though, you know where to be. We'll have a pregame show right here at 6:30 p.m. to get you ready for the game. And, of course, a post-game show as well once the action wraps up. So we hope to see you guys there. As always, thank you again for joining us here for the post-game show. Hit that thumbs up button if you're here with us on YouTube. Rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to give the show a follow on social at PHNX_Suns. You can also follow me at Lindsay Smith AZ. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourget. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. And you can follow Eric at Eric Ruby with a K. Who would like to do the honors of taking us home?
I got it. Ryan Dunn, you are my hero, and you need to play more. If you play more, the Suns will win. Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.